Let's clear something up before we go any further. Many men step into intimacy believing it is only about desire, instinct, and physical release. That is how they were taught to see it. But something happens in those moments that even he often cannot explain to himself. The longer he is close to you, the more his body begins turning simple touch into something emotional. Feelings start to rise without asking permission. The walls he built over years of silence, discipline, and holding himself together slowly begin to soften. That quiet moment afterward, the stillness, the pause, often reveals more about him than any words ever could. He is not pulling away. He is processing a wave of emotion his mind was not ready for. His nervous system shifts from needing to stay in control to allowing himself to let go, and that shift can overwhelm him more than most women realize. Women often misunderstand this silence and assume it means distance, but for many men it feels like vulnerability. You may think he is drifting away while he is actually thinking, what is happening inside me right now? He is not being cold or distant. He is surprised by how real and intense the moment felt. When you understand this, intimacy starts to make much more sense. You stop misreading his reactions and begin to see what closeness truly awakens inside him. Today, we are exploring the emotional experiences men go through during deep intimacy, the ones their bodies reveal long before they find the words. If this message speaks to you, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to Love Psychology Code so you continue learning about love on a deeper level. Now let's move into what his body feels first, even if he never says it out loud. Sometimes a man becomes quiet after intimacy, not because he feels empty, but because he suddenly feels too much. There is a quiet truth here that many women sense but do not fully understand. When intimacy reaches a deep level, a man's body shifts in ways his language cannot keep up with. His nervous system moves from a state of tension and alertness into rest and calm, like an engine finally cooling down after running non-stop for years. That physical shift alone can unlock emotions he has carried since he was young. Stress, pressure, responsibility, and the unspoken rule that he must always be strong begin to loosen their grip. In that moment of closeness, the armor he wears every day starts to fall away. His shoulders relax, his breathing slows, his thoughts stop performing and proving. For once, he does not have to lead, fix, or protect. He is allowed to simply exist. Many women do not realize how rare this feeling is for him. Men grow up in a world where vulnerability is limited and often discouraged, treated like something risky or unsafe. So when intimacy brings him into a space where he finally feels secure enough to let go, the emotional release can be powerful and confusing. Some men respond by going silent. Others stare at the ceiling or into the darkness, lost in thought. A few may even feel tears rise before they can stop them. This reaction has nothing to do with regret or shame toward you. What frightens him is how unfamiliar emotional safety feels inside his own body. It is like stepping into a warm room after spending years in the cold. It feels good, but it is also disorienting. His system does not yet know how to stay there. This is why after a particularly deep and meaningful moment, many men pull back slightly, not to run, not to disconnect, but to steady themselves, to regulate their emotions, to return to a version of themselves they understand better. He is not creating distance from you. He is reconnecting with the identity he has relied on for survival for so long. The version of himself that knows how to handle life, work, and responsibility, but not always how to sit with strong emotions. His silence is not a barrier, it is a reset. When he becomes quiet, it is not rejection. It is a man trying to make sense of what just moved through him. If you watch closely, you will notice that what he needs in that moment is not questions or reassurance. He needs space. Gentle, patient space where his emotions can settle without pressure or judgment. When you understand this, you stop taking his quiet moments personally. You begin to see them as signs that something meaningful has reached him at a deep level. Sometimes the deepest form of connection is not spoken love, but emotional release that happens in silence. And this is only the start, because what truly shapes his emotional path happens in the next layer you are about to understand. Stay with this, because it goes deeper than most people realize. When intimacy settles inside him and the quiet no longer feels heavy or confusing, something much more meaningful begins to form. It does not arrive as a thought or a decision. It shows up in his body first, slowly, like a tide rising beneath the surface of his awareness. The moment a man feels emotionally safe, his biology begins to create attachment long before his mind has time to catch up. Men rarely experience strong waves of oxytocin, the hormone connected to trust, closeness, and emotional bonding. Women often receive it through affection, conversation, and emotional presence. For men, however, the deepest release comes through intimacy, especially when vulnerability is present during that closeness. This is why he may suddenly feel warmth toward you, a pull he cannot explain, a gentle softness that surprises him. It is not uncontrolled romance, it is chemistry responding to safety. In that delicate window of closeness, the lines between you and him begin to soften. He may not consciously notice it, but at a deeper level, he feels distance fading, breath sinking, and a sense that you are no longer two separate spaces, but something briefly shared. It is the feeling of emotional boundaries loosening, of becoming more than just himself, of sharing an inner space instead of only a physical one. To him, this feels comforting and unsettling at the same time. This bonding does not wait for permission. It happens whether he planned for it or not. He may walk into the moment telling himself it is casual, temporary, or purely physical, but his body responds faster than his logic. A short moment can leave a mark he did not expect. A brief encounter can open a door he never meant to open. This is why a man may suddenly become more gentle, more attentive, or unexpectedly attached after closeness, not because of technique or performance, but because of the emotional safety your presence gives him. When a man feels safe, he bonds, and once bonding begins, attachment follows naturally. It is the body revealing what the mind has not yet admitted. If you have ever noticed a man growing unexpectedly attached after intimacy, you are not imagining it. These shifts happen quietly and often without words. And this bonding is not the end of the journey, because when connection settles into his body, something even stronger begins to grow. It is the kind of feeling that turns closeness into powerful love. There comes a moment in a man's heart when bonding moves beyond chemistry and something much larger starts to rise. It happens softly, almost like light becoming clearer in a dark room. When a man already has feelings for you, intimacy does not just connect him, it intensifies everything he has been holding inside. What was gentle becomes vivid, what was calm becomes strong, what felt safe suddenly feels deeply real. This intensity can feel overwhelming. A man who loves you may enter intimacy believing he can stay steady, stay balanced, stay in control. But closeness exposes the truth he tries not to face. His feelings are deeper than he admits, even to himself. That realization can hit him all at once. It sharpens every part of the connection. Affection turns into devotion. Attraction turns into attachment. Presence turns into longing. Love suddenly feels too real, too fast. For many men, this depth brings fear. Not fear of you, but fear of loss. Fear of not being enough. Fear of depending too much on someone who matters deeply. Desire feels manageable to him. Love does not. Love means risk. Love means vulnerability. Love means having something he cannot afford to lose. This is why some men step back slightly after an emotionally intense moment. Not because their feelings are fading, but because they are growing. He creates space to breathe, to steady himself, to avoid being overwhelmed by the strength of his own emotions. You may see this as distance, but to him it is balance. It is the same instinct someone has when they step back from something beautiful, not to leave it, but to take it in. Picture this. A man spends time building closeness with you, enjoying the rhythm of connection, everything feeling warm and stable. Then one night, in an unguarded moment, he feels a deeper surge of love he was not prepared for. The next day, he is kind but quieter, thoughtful, slightly reserved, not because he doubts you, but because he has realized how open his heart has become. And there is still another layer that many people never notice. One of the deepest emotional needs a man carries is the desire to feel chosen, not admired, not chased, not impressed, but truly chosen. This quiet longing follows him from childhood into adulthood and shapes how he loves and how he commits. Beneath confidence and strength lives the same silent question: am I worthy of being the one she lets in? When you open yourself and allow him close, something meaningful awakens inside him. He does not experience it as conquest or control. His ego is not what responds. Instead, he feels a sense of honor, the feeling of being trusted with something fragile, valuable, and irreplaceable. Being chosen by you does not create shallow pride. It creates emotional responsibility. It deepens his loyalty and steadies his love. This feeling changes how he shows up. It softens him while also strengthening him. The more chosen he feels, the more protective he becomes, not in a possessive way, but in a caring and grounded way. He begins to guard the relationship gently, like someone shielding a small flame from the wind, carefully and attentively. You may notice him becoming more thoughtful, more intentional, and more emotionally present. He listens more closely. He tries harder. He becomes calmer, safer, and more stable. A man may appear confident in the outside world for years, but the moment he realizes you truly chose him, his emotional posture changes. One woman once shared that her partner became unexpectedly tender after she said a simple sentence: "I trust you." It was not dramatic or poetic, but to him it felt powerful. From that moment, he loved her with quiet care, as if loving her well was his way of honoring the trust she placed in him. Men do not fall in love simply because a woman is close to them. They fall in love when a woman chooses them. That moment is when pride slowly turns into devotion, and devotion grows into something steady and lasting. If you have ever seen a man become softer, more caring, or more protective after feeling truly chosen, you are not imagining it. If you feel comfortable, share your experience in the comments. Your story may help someone else understand their own relationship more clearly. And as meaningful as pride is, it is still not the final shift, because once a man feels chosen, something even more surprising begins to grow inside him, a kind of joy he rarely gives himself permission to feel. Some forms of joy do not come from doing or achieving, but from being truly seen. Most men move through life believing happiness must be earned through success, status, or constant effort. They learn early that rest must be justified and worth must be proven, but intimacy introduces him to a joy he was never taught to seek. The joy of being accepted exactly as he is, not admired, not measured, not compared, simply accepted. For a man, that kind of joy feels almost sacred. When he is close to you in a moment of real intimacy, a different softness begins to rise inside him. He no longer feels the need to impress. He no longer feels pressure to appear strong or capable. He no longer has to perform confidence or control. For the first time in a long while, he is allowed to be human without consequences, without judgment, without needing to earn his place. That freedom touches something deep inside him. Research on male emotional regulation has shown that when men feel safe with a partner, areas of the brain linked to belonging become more active. In simple terms, the happiness he feels with you is not the happiness of winning or achieving. It is the happiness of home. This is why some men become unexpectedly playful afterward, light, gentle, almost boyish. This is not immaturity, it is relief. It is the return of a part of himself he had to quiet down in order to survive adult life. You may notice it in the way he relaxes next to you, in how his laughter sounds softer, in the way his hand reaches for you without urgency or desire, just calm presence. He reconnects with a version of himself that did not need armor. If you watch closely, these small changes reveal something important. He stays close not because he wants more, but because he feels peaceful. He touches you without thinking because your presence steadies him. His breathing changes as if the space around you feels easier to exist in. With you, he does not have to be strong all the time. With you, he does not have to hide parts of himself. You become a place where his inner world can finally rest. This kind of joy creates one of the strongest bonds possible. Attraction may draw him toward you, but this quiet joy is what keeps him grounded beside you. Desire may spark connection, but acceptance is what transforms it into something lasting. He stays not because he is excited, but because with you he feels whole. When this joy settles inside him, he is no longer just sharing a moment. He is returning to a feeling that reminds him of safety and belonging, a feeling that feels like home, and once a man experiences that, it becomes something he wants to protect, care for, and hold on to. In the end, what determines whether a man stays, drifts away, or grows more devoted is not the physical moment itself. It is the meaning his nervous system connects to that moment. Intimacy becomes a turning point only when it makes him feel chosen, trusted, and emotionally safe. When that happens, he anchors himself to you. When it does not, the moment fades into something purely physical, without a lasting mark. This is why some men seem distant afterward. It is not always a lack of feeling. Often it is emotional overload, a need to understand themselves after experiencing more than they expected. And this is why other men become more attentive, more gentle, more protective. Not because intimacy trapped them, but because it awakened a sense of responsibility, as if your trust activated the part of them that wants to care for what feels meaningful and sacred. Intimacy alone does not create love. The emotional meaning formed within intimacy is what shapes love into something deep and enduring. When you understand this, you begin to understand his silence, his brief withdrawal, his warmth, and the changes in his energy. These are not random reactions. They are emotional imprints his body will remember for a long time. Sometimes the heart is like a quiet room. What lingers after the moment matters more than the moment itself. If this message connected with you, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to Love Psychology Code for more insights into the emotions that shape real, lasting love. And as we move forward, there is one more layer that quietly decides everything, a layer most people never talk about, yet men feel it deeply. It is the moment when reflection begins, after the emotions settle, after the bonding, the pride, and the joy have passed through him. A man naturally turns inward. This is where meaning is formed. This is where his heart decides what this connection truly is. Men are rarely taught how to sit with their emotions. Instead, they are taught how to manage outcomes. So after intimacy, his mind begins to ask questions, not always in words, but in sensations and instincts. What did that moment awaken in me? Did I feel safe? Did I feel respected? Did I feel like myself or like someone I had to pretend to be? These questions do not sound loud, but they are powerful. His body answers them before his mind ever does. If intimacy made him feel calm rather than tense, open rather than guarded, grounded rather than anxious, his system marks you as safe. Safety is not excitement. Safety is not drama. Safety is the quiet signal that tells his nervous system, I can rest here. And when a man finds a place where his system can rest, it changes how he shows up. He becomes more consistent, more thoughtful, more present, not because he is trying to impress you, but because his body no longer feels the need to protect itself. This is also why some men take time after deep intimacy. Silence does not always mean confusion or doubt. Often it means integration. He is allowing the experience to settle into him. He is letting his body decide where this connection belongs in his life. Rushing him in this phase can feel overwhelming, not because he does not care, but because he is still learning how to hold what he feels. You may notice that during this time, he thinks more than he speaks. He watches more closely. He becomes quieter but not colder. This is not withdrawal. It is assessment. His system is asking, can this feeling live in my life long term? And if the answer is yes, his actions will slowly begin to align. He will make space for you without being asked. He will include you naturally. He will protect the connection without announcing it. But if intimacy felt rushed, pressured, or unsafe, His system does the opposite. It closes, not out of cruelty, but out of self-preservation. His distance is not punishment, it is protection. Understanding this changes everything, because it means his response is not about your worth, but about how his body experienced the connection. This is why presence matters more than performance. You do not need to say the perfect thing or do the perfect thing. What matters is how he feels when he is with you. Does he feel relaxed? Does he feel respected? Does he feel emotionally seen without being exposed? These sensations shape his attachment far more than words ever could. When a man feels emotionally regulated with you, he begins to trust himself around you. And when he trusts himself, he can trust the connection. This is the point where love stops feeling like risk and starts feeling like alignment. Not something he has to chase, but something he wants to protect. This is also where patience becomes powerful. Love does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it grows quietly through repeated moments of safety, calm, and understanding. When you allow him the space to integrate his feelings, you give his heart permission to settle instead of defend. In the end, the deepest bond is not created through intensity alone, but through emotional consistency, through moments where nothing dramatic happens, yet everything feels right, where silence feels comfortable instead of awkward, where closeness feels grounding instead of consuming. This is how love becomes steady, not rushed, not forced, but rooted. And when a man reaches this place, he does not stay because he is afraid to leave. He stays because leaving would mean losing a place where his whole self is allowed to exist. And that is the quiet truth many people miss. Men do not stay where they are controlled. They stay where they feel safe, chosen, accepted, and at peace. When intimacy gives him that experience, it becomes more than a moment. It becomes a memory his body carries forward, guiding his heart long after the moment has passed.